The wind turbine was gone. Jamie stood there, staring at the empty pole where it had once spun. The HOA had torn it down overnight. No warning, no reason. But what happened in court changed everything. When the judge spoke, the truth hit harder than any turbine could. The consequences? Even the most cynical were stunned. But let's start from the beginning. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the quiet suburban streets. The air was still, heavy with the hum of distant lawn mowers and the faint scent of freshly cut grass. Jamie Parker stood motionless in his backyard, eyes fixed on the vacant pole where his wind turbine had once stood, a symbol of his dedication to the planet, to change, to something better. Now, all that remained was an empty space, as if his vision had been erased overnight. It hadn't always been this way. Just days ago, that turbine had been more than a mere contraption. It had been a testament to his values, his desire to lessen his environmental footprint. Every gust of wind had been a promise that he was contributing to the future, to cleaner energy. It wasn't just a piece of machinery, it was a statement, a visible, unwavering defiance against the status quo. But now, in its place, only the barren pole mocked him. The Homeowners Association, that faceless entity lurking in the background of every suburban street, had decided, in the dead of night, that his pride and joy was a violation of community aesthetics. No letter, no warning, just a clean, ruthless removal. Jamie's chest tightened as he replayed the moment he first discovered it. His heart sank, disbelief turning into a cold, burning fury. How dare they? They had no right to destroy something he had poured his time, energy, and savings into. No right to take away his choice to be part of a change larger than the neatly manicured lawns surrounding him. It wasn't just about the turbine. It was about freedom, about living in a world where his choices mattered, where his actions could make a difference. The HOA hadn't just violated a rule. They'd taken something from him that he couldn't easily replace. He had been patient before. But now? Now, something had shifted inside him. This wasn't a legal battle. It was a fight for his beliefs, his voice, his home. Jamie had been tracking local environmental news for years, always looking for ways to support sustainability in his community. When the HOA dismantled his wind turbine, he immediately knew that he had a case. This wasn't just about a personal loss. It was a violation of his rights, and he wasn't going to let it go unnoticed. He called his lawyer, Sarah Thompson, a seasoned professional with a sharp mind and a passion for justice, and together they began to devise a plan. The more they discussed the situation, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about one turbine. It was about the HOA's long-standing overreach. At the heart of it all was Karen Whitley, the HOA president. Karen had always been the embodiment of power and control in the neighborhood, but this was different. Jamie's turbine, a symbol of his commitment to the environment, had crossed a line in her rigid vision of suburbia. Karen's goal was to maintain a picture-perfect, cookie-cutter neighborhood where nothing, especially not something as disruptive as renewable energy, could tarnish her vision. It was a vision of conformity, where individuality and eco-consciousness were viewed as threats. As Jamie's anger simmered, it began to transform into something more powerful: resolve. He wasn't going to let Karen, or anyone, dictate his values. He filed a lawsuit against the HOA, claiming illegal property interference and demanding damages for the emotional distress they had caused him. It wasn't just about the turbine anymore. It was about standing up for what he believed in. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Though many neighbors had kept their distance from Jamie's eco-friendly projects in the past, they now began to take notice. Some who had quietly supported him in their hearts came forward, offering their testimonies about the HOA's history of overreach. The pressure on Karen was mounting, but she remained unshaken, her face a mask of cold arrogance. She was used to getting her way, and she wasn't about to let one man change that. But Jamie wasn't backing down, and the battle was just beginning. The court hearings were nothing short of a battle. The tension in the air was thick, the stakes high, and the atmosphere charged with raw emotion. Karen's legal team, armed with polished arguments and sharp suits, painted Jamie as a radical environmentalist. They called him a disruptor, a man so blinded by his green ideals that he was willing to sacrifice the peaceful harmony of the neighborhood for his personal agenda. Their words were calculated, their tone dismissive, but their attempts to undermine Jamie's integrity only fueled the fire inside him. On the other side of the courtroom, Jamie's lawyer, Sarah, was a force to be reckoned with. She had prepared meticulously, gathering irrefutable evidence of the HOA's unlawful actions and their blatant disregard for Jamie's rights. She countered every one of Karen's arguments with precision, her voice steady but fierce as she laid bare the truth. It was clear that Sarah wasn't just defending Jamie. She was fighting for something bigger, a stand against those who thought they could control others through bureaucracy and power. As Jamie sat at the witness stand, his frustration was palpable. His hands trembled slightly as he spoke, but his words were strong, steady. He told the court about the sleepless nights spent fighting for what he believed in, the overwhelming stress of watching his hard work, his wind turbine, torn away in the middle of the night. He spoke of the strain it had put on his family, the soaring energy bills they now faced, and the emotional toll it had taken on him. Each word was a raw reminder of the impact the HOA's actions had on his life. Karen, however, remained the picture of smug composure. She sat with a cold, almost condescending air, dismissing Jamie's pain with bureaucratic language, as though it were all just a matter of procedure. But as the trial progressed, the judge began to show signs of skepticism. The more Jamie's witnesses spoke, the more Karen's carefully constructed arguments seemed to unravel. Each new testimony added weight to Jamie's case, and the tension between the two sides grew thick. The tide was shifting, and everyone in the room could feel it. The day the ruling came, Jamie was a nervous wreck. He had poured his heart into this case, not just for his turbine, but for every resident who had ever felt bullied by the HOA. When the judge read out the verdict, the entire courtroom held its breath. The judge ruled in Jamie's favor, ordering the HOA to pay for the complete reinstallation of the turbine, including damages for emotional distress. The court also made it clear that the HOA had overstepped their authority, making it a landmark case for homeowners' rights across the state. Karen Whitley was livid, her face red with rage, but Jamie didn't care. As he left the courtroom, his heart swelled with pride. Justice had been served. The turbine would be reinstated, and the HOA's power had been cut down to size. The community, once divided, now rallied behind Jamie, inspired by his determination and resilience. The wind turbine, once a symbol of defiance, now stood proudly again, spinning freely in the breeze. A victory not just for Jamie, but for everyone who dared to challenge the system.